Welcome to another episode of Next Level Fishing. Today's a little different. We are out in the woods. Deer hunting season is in full swing in Wisconsin right now. I think this is day 3. And every time I'm just out walking in the woods, I kind of have an eerie feeling. For me, it goes back to an experience several years ago, and I figured, why not share it with all of you? A lot of people I know closely like to hear the full story, so I'll give you my story. You come to your own conclusions. Don't think I'm crazy, because honestly, I don't really care. Like, did I see Bigfoot? Didn't I see Bigfoot? I don't have the answer for you, but I saw something really weird, and it's kind of freaked me out. So here's the story for you. I was driving to a tournament up in northern Wisconsin from my house. I had my team partner staying with me, Jason Correo. So if you know him, ask him the story. He saw the same thing. And we were driving. We had about a 2.5 hour drive to get to the lake. And we get up there and, well, we're on our way, I should say. We left my house probably at about, I'm going to say like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're probably 2 hours into the trip, and we get to this little town of Phillips. And this is a route that I take all of the time. And instead of having to drive right through town, I take some back roads around the outside of town that hooks me up with the county highway that I need to get up to the Hayward, Wisconsin area. And so I'm using my shortcut route, taking these back roads, really just, small little roads through the middle of the woods. And I make a right turn onto a road, and almost simultaneously, both my fishing partner and I at the same time go, bear! And right in the center of the road was this big black object, probably 100 yards in front of us. And at this point now, it's probably about 5 a.m. in the morning. And in Wisconsin at 5 o'clock in the morning, that's twilight. And during the middle part of the summer, I think this was like September. So it was bright enough to see well. It was not, bright enough to say that the sun was up by any means, but it was definitely bright enough to see what was in front of us. And at that time, the object, which had its rear end facing us, kind of looked over its shoulder and then stood up on its hind 2 feet and literally ran into the woods on 2 feet, and looked exactly like what I would picture a gorilla looking like. I mean, it was a big object, probably 6 foot tall for sure, and it had big long arms that were hanging down to the side. And when I say it ran into the woods, it bolted into the woods on 2 feet. Now, at that point, both of us were pretty much stunned. And we sat in the car kind of like, what did we just see? And we continued on our drive, and it was probably about a half hour down the road when one of us kind of was like, didn't that look like a gorilla? And the other's like, yeah, if I didn't know better, I think we just saw Bigfoot. And we kind of joked about it all weekend. And went, fished our tournament, got back, and I remember being on the phone with my mom, and I was kind of just telling her that, we saw this crazy thing, and if we didn't know better, we thought it was Bigfoot. Well, so at that point, my interest kind of got the best of me, and I Googled Bigfoot in Wisconsin. I've never heard Bigfoot stories in Wisconsin, but I figured I'll Google it and see what comes up. And I did that. And to my surprise, there's one hotbed for Bigfoot sightings in Wisconsin. And that is Phillips, Wisconsin, the exact town that I was driving around. I mean, it's a town of they might have 1,000 people. I mean, it's small. And so the town has actually nicknamed the object Big Phil. And there's been lots of sightings throughout the years. Not like all the time, but definitely off and on enough to the point they've nicknamed him Big Phil. And so at that point, when I was doing my research online, I stumbled on a website called Bigfoot Researchers Organization. I think it's bfro.com. And I felt like at that point it was my duty to fill out a sightings claim, which I did, and I had a very specific location. So I left it. Again, I don't really care that much. I thought maybe somebody would find this information beneficial to them and be interested in it. So I filled out a form. And it was probably about 2 weeks later, I was sitting at my job at the Chicago Board of Trade. I had a desk job there, and I get a phone call on my cell phone from this guy. He leaves a message for me, and I pull up the voicemail, and it's a number I didn't know, and I listen to it, and it's this guy. Hey, it's so-and-so calling from the BFRO. I just got your file. It was given to me. I head up the upper Midwest region. I'm going to look into this. This is one of the best sightings we've had in years. I can't wait to go check it out. I just wanted to verify with you, get some more details. I'm going to go camping up there for a couple of weeks and check it out. And I was kind of flabbergasted, like, all right, man, go have fun, enjoy yourself. And the best part about the message is at the end of the message, he goes, just give me a call back so I can verify all this. Feel free to call whenever. Seriously, call me whenever. I have absolutely nothing going on. And I just laughed. I played it for all my coworkers, and we were like, yeah, not surprising he's got nothing going on. He's a Bigfoot sighting expert. So I thought that was the end of it. And, I never heard back from him. Haven't really ever followed up on it, but it was like 3 or 4 years later, I get a email, which I still have, from the one of the assistant producers of the show Finding Bigfoot. And they're like, hey, we're coming up to the Wisconsin area. We want to do an interview of you and put you on our show for the show that we're doing on Wisconsin Bigfoot sightings. And I didn't reply, I didn't do anything. I was driving to a tournament then, and I get a call from her. So I answered it, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to find out, is it paid? And she goes, no, it's not. It's, like your 2 minutes of fame type thing. And I was like, well, I'm not looking for that. I really could care less about Bigfoot. I just wanted, I reported it, so if somebody cared, they'd be able to find it. And, I asked her a few more questions, like, could I wear whatever I wanted, potentially thinking it would be like a sponsor opportunity? Could I, come on the show with my buddy who saw it too? And she's like, yeah, you can do all that if you want. So in my head, I'm like, well, maybe there's sponsor opportunity here. So I told her I'd call her back, and I called up, I called up a couple of sponsors. One, I talked to Bridgeford about it, and Bridgeford pretty much was like, absolutely not. We hate Bigfoot. Don't ever bring this up again. And I kind of laughed about it. I'm like, I don't understand. And then they're like, well, our main competitor has a Sasquatch as a marketing guy. We're just not too fond of Bigfoot. And I was like, okay, I won't wear any Bridgeford stuff on the show. And so then I call up another sponsor, Dirty Jigs, and I talked to Kurt, the owner, and I told him the story, and he just laughed, and he goes, absolutely, you have to do it. You have to go on the show. And at that point, like, flags went off in my head. I'm like, why do you want me to go on the show? I'm like, do you want me to wear Dirty Jigs clothing? He laughs. He goes, hell no, I don't want that on there. So at that point, I'm like, you just want to make fun of me, right? And he just laughed. He goes, absolutely, you'll never live it down. So at that point, I turned down the offer to go on the show Finding Bigfoot. And it's funny to me because every once in a while I get somebody who will contact me still about the post that I put up, which probably at this point is, I'm going to say 10 years old. And, again, I don't know what I saw. The only thing I could describe it as was it was a gorilla. And I actually Googled at the time, like, loose gorilla breaks out, just looking to see if there were any gorillas that had gotten loose from zoos, and, thinking that it was probably a long shot, but you never know. And it actually turned out a year earlier, there had been a gorilla that was loose over in Minnesota. So it's not that far-fetched, I guess, to think that that was the case. But all I can say is the way that this thing moved tells me it was not a bear on two legs. It was very human-like, but faster than any human that I've ever seen. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. It was a very interesting ordeal, and it just seems to kind of keep popping up over the years. So if you've got any similar Bigfoot stories, I'd love to hear about it. You can leave some comments on the bottom of the page. Like and subscribe, guys. It's a weird world. Stay safe in the woods. Hopefully you don't run into something you don't want to see.